Everybody. The time is 2 p.m.
Orange is adding millions on top of millions. Latest car, brand new. And trips to Morocco for your enjoyment. Buy hash 111 star 1 hash or hash 150 hash and also via Max 8. Orange is here.
Friday, December 5, 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to this month's first edition of the Royal English News Magazine, our top stories. Few days after the passing on to glory of political figure and leader of the Manidem party, late Georges Anisser Ekani, reactions have been pouring out on the circumstances leading to his death. In the news magazine, you will get an editorial, reactions from Cameroonians and the political class. Moreover, in the news magazine, you will get or you will have latest news in and out of the country, plus sport with Biwa Bryan. Stay tuned for this and more. The first segment of the news magazine is dedicated to latest national and international news. It is handled today by Ngang Nadesh. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Frini Crispin. An association of students from the Faculty of Laws and Political Science in the University of Yaoundé 2 have paid a working visit to Renapro Finance SA. The visit falls in line with the government policy of one student, one enterprise. These students believe Renapro Finance SA, through the Mutual Assistance and Solidarity MASO, is that platform that is capable of realizing their dreams. Get some of them speak in the following excerpt. They spoke on the microphone of our editorialist and director of information, Abel Bella Samari.
My name is Bondo Vanek. I've discovered today that there are other alternatives that we can towards which we can go. So my take back today is we have to try with Renapro Fidmaso. But I think that it is always good to have some accompaniment, some follow-up in all what we want to accomplish. Renapro can be a very good solution to accompany me in what I want to realize.
My name is Wiba Fortune, a student in Faculty of Law, Yaoundé 2. Of course, I'm actually satisfied. I can notice that Renapro is an association that has an objective to support young students like us who want to become entrepreneurs. And an entrepreneur has many advantages, such as you can benefit from finances. What I want to say today is to encourage young students like me to come massively and support the enterprise Renapro.
The first ordinary and extraordinary sessions of the National Advertising Council for the 2025 financial year have taken place in Yaoundé, and key recommendations are expected to shape the advertising sector in 2026. The Minister of Communication, Rene Emmanuel Sadi, in his capacity as the President of the National Advertising Council, presided over the meeting, which also laid emphasis on the objective, efficient collaboration to drive progress in the advertising sector. Here now is an excerpt of the head of the Technical Secretariat for the National Advertising Council, Kizito Ngankak, who outlines the procedure for granting licenses. Take a listen.
As far as the examination of file is concerned, those requesting for licenses have to bring a couple of documents, 15 of them. The documents are cross-checked in the Ministry of Communication, and then the Advertisement Council gives an advice, and the last person is the Minister of Communication who decides to grant the licenses. So there are 15 criteria that have to be fulfilled by those requesting for licenses. We want to discuss about the issue of avoiding head messages in advertisement activities. We are going to push forward the reflection on setting a sort of verification before publishing the advertisement messages, so that we should be able to see what is being advertised, especially on the web. We have low capacity of controlling on the web. We are thinking that we should do it before the advertisement messages are published.
The 2025 edition of the Strategic Steering Committee of Multifunctional Centers for the Promotion of Youth was held yesterday in Yaoundé under the coordination of the President of the Committee, Minister of Youth and Civic Education, Munona Futsu. I propose you listen to his reaction after the meeting. He spoke on the microphone of our reporter, Annie Lizette Ambassa.
As you know, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Biya, in his swearing-in speech of 6 November 2025, has prescribed a special youth plan for the promotion of youth employment in a context where also we have adopted new national youth policy, and in a context also where the multi-purpose empowerment centers are considered and registered in the financial law a source of non-tax revenue collection. Considering all those challenges, during this 9th session of the Strategic Steering Committee, adopted some recommendations and resolutions that give opportunities to those structures have efficient and functioning in their potential, so that to fulfill at the same time the harmonious implementation of the new national youth policy, the implementation of this special plan for the promotion of youth employment, and also improve the collection of the non-tax revenue in those structures.
On to something else. Today, December 5th, is being observed as International Volunteer Day under the theme Every Contribution Matters. Mandated by the UN General Assembly in 1985, the day offers an opportunity for volunteer-involving organizations and individual volunteers to promote the practice, encourage governments to support volunteer efforts, and recognize volunteer contributions to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals at local, national, and international levels. A newsroom sampled the opinions of some Cameroonians on whether they can take on volunteer jobs. Get them speak in this Vox Pop.
I can actually take a volunteering job because through volunteerism, you get to network so many people. When you volunteer, it's just like you're working with those people and you become friends, you know them, and through them, you can actually get a job. Also, personal growth. When you volunteer with a company or in a job site, you discover that you learned a lot during that period. And because of the experience that you got from that volunteering job, this is going to help you a lot. It's going to boost my growth in the job industry and also to network with people.
I will take a volunteering job because it will help me personally, like in professional growth. Depending on the job, it will help me build up skillfully and also mentally, also be sociable or socialize well with people and build up a strong teamwork as well.
So taking a volunteerism job, you have to look at the advantages of it rather than the disadvantages, because most people will be like, since it's not paying, they would not take it. But I think looking at the advantages, you discover that why volunteering, you connect with a lot of people who stand as references for you in a case where you have to get a job.
Still on the International Volunteer Day, our reporter Glory Ngange spoke to a volunteer enthusiast, Cynthia Ebot, who explains the importance of volunteerism and how it has shaped her career path.
Right from my university days at the Cameroon Red Cross, I always loved giving my time to things because that's just what volunteering is about, giving your time, resources to something that may or may not give you back. But I think a guarantee that is always at the back of the mind is that nothing goes for nothing, and that the more you pour into others, that is how, it's not a transaction, but the universe finds a way to compensate you as you keep pouring into others. There are various volunteer platforms I'm registered on, such as the UN Volunteer Platform, National Volunteer Program for Cameroon, that's the Ministry of Youth and Civic Education. And building a part in it just requires consistency, ferventness to do something. And as a volunteer, it would help you very much if you identify a path you want to follow and keep going down that path. So today and even next year that the UN has put as a whole year, 2026, to celebrate volunteers and recognize their role in building the society, I think it's very important for every young person to take a step back and ask themselves that, what am I doing today? What is that thing that I am giving my time to that I can sit and smile in my heart that I helped this cause, not for money, but because of the vision that I saw in it?
You were listening to Cynthia Abot, one of the winners of the 2025 edition of the UNESCO Media and Information Literacy Youth Hackathon Award. We now talk health to say that the second scientific conference of the Cameroon Association for the Study of the Management of High-Risk Pregnancy ends today in Yaoundé. The event that opened on December 4th is holding on the theme Pre-Eclampsia, Diagnostic, Therapeutic and Specific Perspectives of African Women. The two-day health event brought together experts in obstetric gynecology, cardiologists, anesthetists, and pediatricians from some African countries seeking solutions to high blood pressure in pregnant women, said to be the second cause of maternal mortality in Africa. Still in health, the first phase of the project to support the deployment of the National Blood Transfusion Service, PADOC, has been assessed. The assessment was carried out by the funding partner Expertise France and the top management of the National Blood Transfusion Service, NBTS, during a recent working visit to the NBTS headquarters in Yaoundé. PADOC is now in its second phase with the goal of reducing the risks of transfusion-transmissible infections like HIV and malaria, as well as strengthening the technical capacities of the NBTS hospital banks. The project is also aimed to equip civil society organizations to better mobilize communities for blood donation. In economy, the Minister of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, Social Economy and Handicrafts, Achille Basiliken III, has signed a partnership agreement of 1.5 billion francs CFA with the Cameroon Bank for Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises. This is to boost financing of local businesses, particularly in the agro-pastoral and fishery sector. Sealed in Yaoundé yesterday, December 4th, the deal aims to strengthen production, reduce import dependence, and support enterprises through the government's integrated import substitution plan. The Trump administration has targeted 19 countries, excluding Cameroon, on its travel ban list after a terrorist attack perpetrated by one of Afghanistan's citizens on its territory. For experts in economy, Cameroonians living in the USA have a significant impact on the American economy by paying taxes, driving growth in key sectors like healthcare, technology, engineering, and finance. Jamo Haiwang, research analyst and national coordinator at the Cameroon Economic Policy Institute, spoke to our reporter Jeffrey Tachum. Take a listen.
I think there isn't a single explanation, but the contribution of Cameroonians in the United States is certainly an important factor. The Cameroonian diaspora is deeply embedded in strategic sectors, healthcare, engineering, technology, and finance, where they help fill critical gaps. They also contribute meaningfully to the formal economy through taxes, entrepreneurship, and innovation. For any U.S. administration, even one considering restrictive policies, it's essential not to undermine sectors that really rely heavily on skilled immigrant labor. So yes, the economic and professional impact of Cameroonians can be a strong reason why Cameroon may be excluded from such a list, because restricting that talent pool would ultimately hurt the American economy itself.
On to this feature story, as the festive season unfolds, there is a surge in incidents of kidnappings and other safety concerns as many grapple with the fear of being a victim. Our reporter Glory Ngange spoke to some parents on what measures they are putting in place to ensure their children's safety. She compiled the following vox pop.
This issue of kidnapping is too much, especially during this period. As for me, as a parent, when schools close, I make sure that I go home with my children or their big sister comes and take them. I don't allow my children to go home alone. And in school, even as a teacher, I make sure that the parents come and take their children back home. I wait in school until they come and take all the children.
We should ensure that we go and keep our kids in school and make sure we really want to go and take them from school. There are also the teachers that you be the only person to take, and if you will not be able to be there on time, there the teacher that you send in, a stranger or somebody to come and take your child. Don't just sit or don't allow your child to come back from school. Let's go and accompany them in school and bring them back from school on time too, because at times when you delay, your child will be like worried, everybody's gone, and maybe try to come back home alone.
I ensure that I know where my children are going and at what time and which route they are taking. I also ensure that I put them in conditions where they will be home before 6 p.m. so that they don't work at risky hours. And if need be that they are a risky place, I would like to be in constant communication with them in order to know if something has happened or not. And by this way, I succeed to keep track with them and away from the men of the underworld. Mostly too, I like to work with them, to go to places with them and do things together.
Out of the country, the presidents of Rwanda and DR Congo, together with US President Donald Trump, have ratified a peace agreement known as the Washington Accords for Peace and Stability. The ceremony, which held in Washington on December 4th, was attended by several other heads of state from Africa, including Burundi, Kenya, Angola, and Togo. However, this major move comes amidst continuous tensions in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The United States and Kenya have signed a major $2.5 billion health agreement in Washington, hyped as the first in a long series in the Trump administration's new global health strategy. This initiative marks the beginning of a policy of bilateral partnerships reserved for countries considered aligned with Washington's diplomatic priorities. It comes after the dissolution of U.S. aid, whose closure led to significant cuts in hundreds of international humanitarian programs. Germany's parliament, the Bundestag, has voted to introduce voluntary military service in a move aimed at boosting national defenses after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The change means that all 18-year-olds in Germany will be sent a questionnaire from January 2026 asking if they are interested and willing to join the armed forces. The form will be mandatory for men and voluntary for women. Students at schools across Germany have said they would join strikes in as many as 90 cities to protest against the move. Back to you, Crispin.
Thank you, Ngang Nadesh. We move to the second segment of this edition, which is the magazine. It is dedicated to paying homage to late politician George Anise Ekane, leader of the African Movement for Independence and Democracy, Manidem, who died last Monday. We begin with this musical beat.
It's been a long day.
into the English News Magazine. Cameroon's prominent political figure Georges Anissé Ekane, co-founder and leader of the African Movement for Independence and Democracy, MANIDEM, died Monday, December 1st at the National Gendarmerie Medical Center in Yaoundé, following a decline in his health. Prior to his death, Anissé Ekane was being held in detention in connection to the aftermath of the October 12, 2025 presidential election crisis. It is worth noting that before his arrest, the late politician had a record of health issues. Joining me in the studio is our Director of Information and Editorialist at Royal FM, Abel Bilasamari. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Finwe Crispin.
In the following editorial, you question how safe Cameroon is after the death of Georges Anissé Ekane.
You are very correct. The question on how safe Cameroon is to live in has become increasingly important, especially following the death of Georges Anissé Ekane. Cameroon is a country rich in culture and diversity, but it continues to face serious challenges that affect the safety and well-being of its citizens. Politically, the nation has been under the leadership of President Paul Biya for over 4 decades, a period that has brought continuity but also widespread criticism. Many citizens express concern about corruption, limited political freedom, and the suppression of opposing views, all of which create a tension and uncertain environment. One of the biggest threats to safety in Cameroon today stems from the prolonged Anglophone crisis. What began in 2016 as protests over marginalization has escalated into an armed conflict between separatist fighters and government forces. Communities in the northwest and southwest regions now live in fear of kidnappings, violence rate, and destruction of property. Thousands have been displaced and many have lost their lives. In addition to this internal conflict, Cameroon also faced the threat from extremist groups like the Boko Haram in the far north region, making daily life in this area unpredictable and often dangerous. In major cities like Douala and Yaoundé, ordinary crimes is another concern. High unemployment, poverty, and unequal access to opportunity have contributed to rising theft, armed robbery, and other criminal activities. Many citizens feel that the justice system is slow and difficult to access, leaving people to rely on their own means of protection. This economic and social hardship further adds to the sense of insecurity across the country. The death of Georges Anissé Ekane has drawn renewed attention to this issue, as well as well-known figures involved in addressing national concern. His death highlights the risks faced by individuals who speak out or advocate for change. Although the full details surrounding his passing may not be clear, the incident reflects a broader reality in Cameroon. Political and social tension can place people in danger, particularly those who challenge the system or work in activism. Overall safety in Cameroon varies greatly depending on where you find yourself. Some regions remain relatively peaceful, allowing many people to continue their daily lives without major threat. However, in conflict-affected areas and regions struggling with high crimes and extremist activities, the risks are significant. until the country addresses its political divisions, economic challenges, and ongoing conflict. The question of safety remains a central concern for all Cameroonians.
And in the write-up that follows, our reporter Glory Ngange brings out the biography and landmarks of Georges Anissé Ekani political journey. Take a listen.
Georges Anissé Ekani died at 74 in Yaoundé on Monday, December 1st, 2025. He gave up the ghost in detention after 37 days of being in custody at the State Secretariat for Defense. The prominent political figure was arrested on October the 24th at the headquarters of the African Movement for New Independence and Democracy, Manidem, in Douala, alongside other members of the party. This in the aftermath of the post-electoral crisis. At the time of his arrest, Anissé Ekani was already suffering from severe respiratory failure. He was then transferred to Yaoundé and placed in administrative custody at the State Secretariat for Defense of the Gendarmerie for insurrection and rebellion related to post-electoral protests. Anissé Ekani was born on April the 17th, 1951 in Douala, the littoral region of Cameroon. He obtained his primary and secondary education in his hometown, Douala, and later traveled to France, where he acquired his advanced level, studied and graduated from the Lille University with a certificate in economics and administration. While in Lille, in the 1970s, he joined the National Union for Cameroonian Students, INEG. Anissé Ekani started featuring on the political landscape in Cameroon in 1973 when he became a member of the UPC, from where he later co-founded the African Movement for New Independence and Democracy, Manidem, with lawyer Yondo Black. The political figure who headed the Patriotic Democrats group together with Yondo Black was arrested in February 1990 and sentenced to 4 years in prison with a fine of 20 million francs CFA before the military court in Yaoundé. Anissé Ekani was later released following a presidential pardon on August the 14th, 1990. The leader of the Manidem party resigned in November 2009 and became a political advisor to the Manidem Political Bureau. He was nominated by his party as its candidate for the 2011 presidential election. In 2018, a decision by the Minister of Territorial Administration confirmed him as head of the party following a leadership crisis with former President Dieudonné Yebga. After supporting Maurice Kamto's candidacy in the presidential election of October 2025, which was eventually rejected by Elekam, Anissé Ekani redirected his support to the candidacy of Issa Chiroma Bakari through the Union for Change 2025 platform. As one of the founders, the group had as objective to unite all forces for change around a common program of transition and national rebuilding, present a people's consensus candidate for the 2025 presidential election, lead a popular and participatory campaign that mobilizes citizens across the country and ensure presence and monitoring in all polling stations to safeguard the people's vote. To that effect, the platform endorsed Issa Chiroma Bakari as their consensus candidate of the opposition for the last presidential election. George Anise Ekane served as the long-term president of Manidem Party until his death in detention on December the 1st, 2025.
And days after the demise of popular renowned political opposition leader Anise Ekane, reactions keep pouring out from the political class, with many showing concerns as to what the political life of Cameroon could look like in the days ahead. I propose you listen to some of them in this exchange with Evans Williams Jobati.
Michael Kiki, you are a militant of the Manidem Party. What were your first reactions when you received the news that Anise Ekane passed away in detention?
It's one of those things where, sometimes when they happen, you think you are not hearing properly, or perhaps it's a dream. Because yesterday, when the ghost town kicked off, I was actually on a similar program like this with Mr. Ekane's son, Muna Ekane. We were actually kind of, I would say, sympathizing with the situation of his dad without actually knowing that 24 hours will be no more. So I was terribly shocked because I spoke with him yesterday, and I can imagine he himself did not know that this is what is going to happen to his dad, let alone to the rest of the family. And when you tend to even reflect a little bit, like what exactly happened? This is a guy who was arrested, I think, over a month ago for doing absolutely nothing, for actually just being a Cameroonian and somebody who happens to have a view that the country or things need to change. Yes, everybody's going to die, but you wouldn't want to die in prison, especially for something that you didn't do, especially in a very, I would say, despicable condition. Your family is not there. I mean,
Edith Kabanwala, you are the president of the Cameroon People's Party and equally one of those that were in the delegation who visited the ministers of territorial administration and that of communications, asking the release of Anise Ekane and others who were arrested during post-electoral tension. Can you please tell us what really happened over there?
We visited the Minister of Territorial Administration and the government spokesperson. We visited two ministers in Yaoundé. We formed a delegation as women leaders to go and see them, to say, release these people. All of these people whom you have arrested, the arrest is illegal and it is unjust. We release them. And we raised the specific cases of those who were sick, those who were in specific dire conditions. And Mr. Anise Ekane was the specific case on which we spent a lot of time with Mr. Tanganji. When we were talking, he was behaving as if we are being overly concerned. He said, oh, he's in a hospital, he's in a very good military hospital, there are good doctors there, but here we are. This was on Thursday last week. Here we are, hearing that Anise Ekane is dead. So obviously he was not getting the kind of medical care that he should be getting. And in the first place, what was he doing there?
Harry Obenson, you are close friends with Anise Ekane's son, and equally political analyst and a lawyer. I believe the news of Anise Ekane shocked you at a certain point.
Me, like everybody else, was the first thing that popped. My phone was exploding with messages, and few people had called, but it was 4 a.m. in the morning. I missed those calls, and then I woke up and saw all of these messages. And at the beginning, I was sad about it. And then I gradually started getting angry about it. And then I got to the point where I said, we must do something about it. I made a few calls. I screamed at a few people. But I sat down to reflect on what this moment means for Cameroon. And so this moment must not go unpunished, unnoticed, and people must be held accountable this time. My research in law tells me that this is a state crime. This is a crime where the apparatus of the state was used to bring to death political opponent. It's a crime that is in transgression of the Geneva Convention on how to treat people. It's in contradiction to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is part of the Cameroon Constitution.
Reactions in the national opinion have been buzzing, with many condemning what they describe as anti-democratic methods by the government. Jeffrey Tachum captured some reactions from Cameroonians and compiled this report.
The death of opposition leader Anicet Ekane has caused a wave of shock and consternation in the Cameroon political sphere, but equally in the streets. It is the case of Gabriel, who thinks that authorities had no business keeping him in detention considering his health conditions.
The government has really messed up because firstly they were not supposed to arrest someone who had a very bad health condition. So now they are passing through a lot because of that. And also they were supposed to be sure that even in jail he was going through his treatment, so that in case of something like that they should not be held responsible.
Meanwhile, Paul Wanji pays his respect to whom he considered as a patriot and unconditional fighter for Cameroon's sovereignty, and hopes that the brains behind this tragedy be all held accountable for their actions.
I think it really shows that there is a lot to do in our democracy or in our institutions, in hospitals and other institutions. How can someone die like this? I just hope that with the investigation put in place by the government, those responsible for this death are going to maybe judge.
For Gabriel, who has yet to understand the agenda behind the demise of Anicet Ekane, accountability towards our leaders is necessary and actions need to be taken.
I think it really shows that there is a lot to do in our democracy or in our institutions, in hospitals and other institutions. How can someone die like this? I just hope that with the investigation put in place by the government, those responsible for this death are going to maybe judge.
Anicet Ekane, who was president of the Movement for New Independence and Democracy, Manidem, has endorsed Maurice Kamto and later on Issa Chiroma Bakari during the recent presidential election.
On the side of the government, the Ministry of Defense has opened an investigation on the incident in order to bring clarity to the SAT incident. This was made known via a communique signed by Navy Captain Atonfak Gemo Cyril Serge, head of Communication Division, last December 1st, 2025. Meantime, and to be more complete on today's topic of the 2 p.m. newscast or the 2 p.m. magazine, Evans Williams Jobati earlier on had a phone chat with civil society actor Ernest Akufo, who makes an overall understanding of Anicet Ekane's death.
Good morning, Ernest Akufo, and welcome to today's 2 p.m. Real magazine.
Good morning.
Ernest Akufo, I believe you heard the news of George Anicet Ekane, who passed away some days back. First of all, what are your first words?
When I learned about it Monday morning at 9 a.m., I was flabbergasted. I was taken aback. I had ghost people on me. I never believed until when I followed the news on Radio France International. That's where I confirmed that is what happened. Then the local media started reporting. You see, learning about the transition of such a person and in what manner is what is so shocking in the whole issue. Shocking because he was kidnapped. He never was summoned for any motives whatsoever. He was kidnapped, and the family had to do a search before they could know his whereabouts, even the lawyers. So that's what hurt me the most. And I began to ask a series of rhetorical questions, which I don't think that every other Cameroonian social civil society actor is asking his or herself.
Equally, Ernest Akufo, we learned that the popular opposition leader of the Madidem party, Anise Ekane, died in custody after several health complications. What is your own say?
Well, when you look at the age of George Anise Ekane, I'll say my sincere condolences to his family before I continue, because I saw them, they were weeping mercilessly. Not only that family, but the whole political family in Cameroon is weeping. Cameroonians are weeping. You like to know that Anise Ekane has been at the forefront of politics since the democratic process returned to this country, since democracy returned to this country in the early 90s. He fought the fight with late venerated Nijon Fundi. So saying that he died in the hospital because of poor health at his age 74. No human being is still strong, very strong. There are health complications related to age. So if he had those problems and they discovered that he needed life support, he shouldn't have been locked up in a cell. Well, they identified him already. They could put him under house arrest, under surveillance, as they do with other politicians. So take it as an act of cruelty, an act of mere wickedness. And the allegations that somebody did say that he want to see him die for him to provide a casket. It's sad. It's sad. It's sad.
As a civil society activist, do you think the arrest and detention of opposition leaders has its place in our society or environment?
I will have to make this small correction before we proceed. There is a difference between a civil society actor and a civil society activist. I want to say I am an actor. I may say I do it in a pacific manner and not in a volatile manner. Yes, activists are at times volatile than the actors. So, coming back to your question proper, when you see what happens, I want to say democracy is not all about war, right? It's all about, or politics per se, it's not about war, it's not about animosity, it's not about hatred. Rather, it is the exchange, the selling of ideas to your supporters and your well-wishers or your fervent followers. But when politics becomes animosity, hatred, under the witch hunting, I don't know where we're heading to. It's high time we get back to the drawing board because it's so hurting. And if the opposition political leaders, I mean the genuine ones per se, don't get up now, what has happened to Anise George Ekane will not only limit to himself, but will have the tentacles to the other leaders who are presently being hunted. You have some of them who were caught alongside with him. You have some who were caught since 2018, the presidential elections. So it's a matter of opposition political party leader to create an ensemble, come together and protect their rights. Know that rights are not given, rights are seized. So it's high time there is a convergence of views. Either we get back to the monolithic political system rather than saying we are in a democratic process. There is no democracy. I'm tempted to say that Cameroon is a failed democracy.
Going by the militants of the Mandem party, their leader, Anise Ekane, would have been killed. If proven otherwise, following the official release from the National Gendarmerie that they are investigating, do you think the government can sue this party?
Killing or not killing or whatsoever. Killing doesn't only means use a sword or a gun. Or there are other means of killing someone. Moral torture can lead to death. And I want to believe that's what happened to George Anise Ekane, because he was morally tortured. When your health support isn't with you and something which you can't live for some time without, what do you think you can be up to? That is why they say they killed him. because when they kidnapped him from Douala, they held support kit in Douala and came to Yaoundé. He later requested for it to be brought to him. It was brought or not brought, it was not given to him. But the very moment that you discover that he lives on life support, and without establishing any concrete case against him, why do you keep him in custody? Are we still in a one-party democracy? Yes, Cameroon is a one-party democracy, because when you look at the recently conducted elections, regional elections, you see that the obese nature of the CPDM still prevailed, and they carried the day. Well, if amongst almost 350 political parties in the country, one political party is so domineering and carries the day in all the regions, all the subdivisions, and all the like, is there need to talk of democracy? I want to say Cameroon is a one-party democracy, with the CPDM doing their thing the way they know how to do it.
Even more, Anise Ekane's death has been characterized by motions of support and condolences messages from almost all opposition parties of the country, and equally international level, where we see the European Union accusing the government of Cameroon for neglect. Do you think this is the case here?
Cameroon is not an island. There are norms, there are democratic norms which ought to be adhered to in every country that claims to be practicing democracy. The reason that's why you see even foreign international bodies who are very much concerned about what happened. Local opposition political leaders who have expressed their messages of condolences, the family of the political family, the Manidem, and the biological family of George Anise Ekane, but normal. But I want to believe that it shouldn't only be limited at these condolence messages. I think it should extend much more to arrest this sad situation, to arrest this demonic, yes, it's demonic situation. I said, and I will repeat again, politics is not about war. Politics is about the exchange of ideas. Politics doesn't demand animosity. Politics doesn't demand hatred.
Ernest Akufo, do you think this instance will affect the political life of the country, given that we recently experienced post-electoral tensions?
You know, such actions or such events, sad events, must always have a repercussion on the political life of the country. You see, the economy of the country for some time now has been on a downturn. Maybe some investors were waiting for the aftermath of the presidential elections to come invest in Cameroon. And even some Cameroonian businessmen who maybe had wanted to open up or create new projects. But when they see all of this, everybody begins to fear. Yes, at times it is said we create the fear. It is not the people who create the fear. It is the other person that uses intimidatory methods, that use hooks and crooks to manipulate. Because when you look at the way, the arrogance with which the governing class addresses the people, it is not good. The hate language which they use, it is not good. So there is cause for concern. And when we talk of peace, yes, because the talk around the country now is peace, 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 peace. There can never be peace without justice. And the absence of war doesn't mean that with weaponry, which we don't see on the streets, it means that the people are at peace. No, the inner mind is not at peace. It is very troublesome. It is very worrying, because at times when the arms even come, they can terminate the war, the issue in maybe a few days, a few hours. But when the people have loaded minds, when they have minds who are nursing a lot of anguish, it becomes so catastrophic. And not being a pessimist, I want to say I fear Cameroon being on a time bomb. because the proposed electoral tensions have not died down yet, and this is another incident that is coming to add to it. It really beats my imagination that how could such things happen. But know that when God wants to bring you down, it first of all lifts you up, right up there, and then you fall thereafter like a pack of cats. You know, avenues for redress, if only the people are having faithful minds, if only they are having good faith, faith for which nothing can work.
Ernest Akufo, let me remind our listeners that you are a civil society actor and not a civil society activist. Thank you so much for accepting to be our guest on today's 2 p.m. News Magazine.
It was a pleasure having to share with Cameroonians, and I want to say we must keep hoping, because at very one moment we cease hoping, we are going 6 feet down. Despite all of the odds, the lone thing is we should be hopeful, we should be prayerful, not lying on our beds. We should get up and act. Acting doesn't mean carrying weapons, but speak out, please. Thank you very much.
And in sports, the Minister of Sport and Physical Education, Professor Narcisse Mwele Kombi, has issued strong instructions to ensure a seamless organization of the 2025 Cameroon Cup. He issued the directives during a preparatory meeting that at the Yaoundé Multipurpose Sports Complex yesterday. Biwa Brian has the details in the following report.
The preparatory meeting saw the attendance of representatives from 16 specialized commissions, each with tailored responsibilities crucial for the success of the upcoming event. Key concerned ministries were present, including the Ministry of Defense, which is tasked in accordance with security operations. The upcoming event is set to officially conclude the 2024-2025 sports season, bringing together all the national sports federations in order to bolster the preparation for the 2 football finalists. The government allocated a support package of 6 million CFA francs to each of the participating teams.
The government's boost to the finalists of this year's Cup of Cameroon is a tradition that has been respected again this time. It's an applaudable move from the government. You know, even though this money is just a tip of an iceberg as to what these clubs they do invest for the players and to manage a club.
According to Harrison, this crucial financial injection is expected to significantly benefit both Colombe Sportif and Panther by supporting all aspects of their preparations and presentation for the final. The funds are intended to ensure they are fully equipped and ready for the high-stakes match.
But I think the money comes as an extra motivation to the players, management of the clubs, to prepare, to ensure that they cut the T's and dot the I's wherever necessary, and so that the players can have the right state of mind in build up to the game. I mean, things like hotels are being sorted out, food, yes, and maybe
Among the federations present at yesterday's preparatory meeting was the Bodybuilding Federation. The inclusion highlighted their recent success as the federation recorded one of Cameroon's best results on the international stage this season. The federation president expressed enthusiasm, stating they are eagerly looking forward to attending the Cameroon Cup final.
Cameroon Bodybuilding Federation, I can say we have good news for this year because we've been working so hard. We won a lot of trophies and medals around the world. Internationally, we were the best. And nationally, we do a lot of promotion around the countries. Left and right, we've been doing training for seminaries and everything. On the 14th will be the end of the season of sport in Cameroon.
During the said meeting, the Minister of Sports and Physical Education issued strong instructions emphasizing cooperation to ensure a beautiful and celebratory close to the 2024-2025 sports season on December 14. He explicitly tasked 3 key entities, the Director of Norms and Development of Sports and the Cameroon Football Federation, plus the National Office of Infrastructures and Sport Equipment, to work in harmony. Furthermore, as the event draws near, the Minister pressed the 16 head of commissions responsible for successfully organizing the 64th Cameroon Cup to maintain high level of responsiveness and accountability.
The Royal English News Magazine was technically assisted by Salomon Esana, our sound engineer and studios clerk, video editor Alan Kwekam, producer Jeffrey Tachum, news editing Mapala Zita, editorial coaching Abel Bilansamari, coordination Roger Kiek, general supervision the Reverend Pastor beside Emmanuel Noel. For presentation, I have been Frinwe Crispin. Up next is Géopolitique, a presentation of Jean-Patient Tchala. Good afternoon, Jean-Patient.
Bon après-midi, Crispin Frinwe. Bon après-midi à tous les auditeurs. Géopolitique, sans vous laisser poser la question, nous allons revenir sur la dette des États africains. Nous sommes dans un système de surendettement dans au moins 22 pays. Quand nous empruntons de l'argent ailleurs, qu'est-ce que nous en faisons? Est-ce que nous avons la capacité de rembourser nos dettes? Qu'est-ce qui nous empêche de les rembourser? Et est-ce que les populations voient le retour venant de ces dettes-là en matière d'investissement? Ce sont des questions que nous allons poser à nos invités, mais également aux auditeurs qui viendront intervenir quand ils vont le souhaiter.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is what is going to make up Géopolitique this afternoon, a presentation of Jean